On tonight's 8 o'clock movie special, you're watching The Canterville Ghost.
What's that?
Looks like a cross-house generator.
This is Max Headroom.
Max Headroom?
Ah, cocologist.
He sees us.
Where there's a wave, there's a Coke.
I like him.
Join the club. You know, more people prefer the new taste of Coke over Pepsi.
Let's take him home.
Good idea.
So you
Pepsi drinkers, now's your chance. Become a cocologist. That's the way. Oh!
There's a whole new dimension of intergalactic thrills at Disneyland. Brand new in Tomorrowland, Captain EO. With phenomenal music, dance, and visual effects in a fabulous 3D motion picture space adventure. Then lift off, rocking and rolling through a galaxy of great attractions. Experience it all, 7 days a week and Saturdays till midnight, right here at Disneyland.
Hershey Bar, one of the old-time greats. When you want pure milk chocolate with or without almonds, nothing but a Hershey bar will do. One of the old-time greats.
When I bite into a York peppermint patties, I'm getting the sensation of a little bit shivers tiptoeing up and down my spine.
York peppermint patty, get the sensation.
This is Curtis Blow with the latest trends. You got to know what's out and what's in. Talking about the taste of one that's right.
Now more than ever,
It's right. Lemon taste and lime taste. Great lemon taste is tough. Without lemon, it's not happening. So sorry, 7-Up. No, that's the trend. So tell it to a friend. We're chilling out with the taste that's in. Now more than ever.
now more than ever,
It's right.
This is the white meat turkey that goes in the Hot Club Supreme, the Jack built. This is the lean ham that goes on the turkey that goes in the Hot Club Supreme, the Jack built. This is the zesty cheese that goes on the ham that goes on the turkey that goes in the Hot Club Supreme, the Jack built. This is the crispy bacon that goes on the cheese that goes on the ham that goes on the turkey that goes in the Hot Club Supreme, the Jack built. This is the juicy tomato that goes on the bacon that goes on the cheese that goes on the ham that goes on the turkey that goes in the Hot Club Supreme, the Jack built. And I'm the man that's going to eat the new Hot Club Supreme, the sandwich that Jack built.
When it's cold and rough outside, try something warm and creamy inside. Cream of wheat hot cereal and instant mix and eat. Their smooth texture always lets the flavor come through. 2 great ways to come in from the cold.
Oh, who's that kid with the Oreo cookie licking up the creamy middle like he did when he was little? Oh, that yummy Oreo. Who's that kid with the Oreo cookie dunking all the luscious chocolate, loving every bit? It's hard to hide the kid inside when you're crunching Oreo.
Oreo cookies for the kid and all of us.
A drink's delightful the second time. Hi. Do you remember the first time you tried kissing? But now. And when you first tried Coke, I bet you said, not for me. But hey, let's not let first impressions swim. And let's try Coke again, shall we? Because once you've acquired that new wave taste, you're going to want to try it again, and again. A Coke's delightful the second. Catchy, isn't it? Catch the wave. Coke.
Trident helps fight cavities, and it always has?
Helps fight cavities? Come on.
I mean, I've been fighting cavities all this time without even knowing it. I knew Trident didn't cause cavities, but help fight them.
Be great if it's true.
New dental studies prove chewing Trident after sugary snacks reduces acids that form on teeth. It's these acids that can cause cavities. Ask your dentist.
It's nice to hear a little good news once in a while.
Something that's delicious and good for you, too?
Why chew any other gum?
Trident, good to chew and fights cavities, too.
Just the two of us.
Dentine makes it nicer to be together.
Just the two of us, you and I.
Share that clean, tangy taste. Not even mouthwash can freshen your breath better than when you're chewing Dentine.
Just the two of us, getting closer all the time. Just the two of us, you and I.
Ah, giving the guys pie, huh? How'd you get? Plain pie? No, cherry pie. They like? Sure they do. Pie.
Shouldn't they?
Yeah.
Shouldn't they?
Yeah.
Wouldn't they love it more with Cool Whip?
The fresh whip taste of Cool Whip topping makes pie. Fruit. Any dessert better. And only 16 calories a serving.
So couldn't they? Shouldn't they?
Yeah.
Wouldn't they love it more with Cool Whip?
Everyone knows Vandy Camps has a line on fresh-tasting fish. With our light fillets, our breaded and batter-dipped fish, and today's catch fillets. They all taste fresh because they're frozen fresh, and you'll taste it in every bite once you catch them.
Did you get Vandy Camp's fish?
I think they're getting tired. Vandy Camps, the freshest ideas in frozen fish.
Hey, mister, can I trade in this 7-Up for a Sprite?
Gee, I don't know. Something the matter?
Yeah, Sprite tastes better than 7-Up.
Come on.
Really, Sprite even beat 7-Up in a taste test.
I always thought they were the same.
No, Sprite's the one with lemon, and more people chose that great lemon taste. Here, try it.
Kid, you just made a sale.
Now more than ever, it's Sprite.
For $69 an axle, Midas will install new organic brake shoes or disc pads, turn drums or rotors, repack front wheel bearings, replace front grease seals if needed. See Midas for details.
Hi, I'm Nikolai Rostopovich, Russian defector. I'm going to school to become an American citizen. Also to learn all the wonderful things about this country. Not that I don't sometimes miss my homeland. Russia was like mother to me. She opened my mail, picked my friends, searched my room. I'm much happier now living with my Uncle Sam.
Discover what a country. New this fall.
Saturday at 6 on Channel 2.
Now, where is he?
On Magnum. A high-powered Russian defector with a secret
I request political asylum.
hires Magnum to free his lover.
She also wants to defect.
You don't know these people. I will never get out of here.
But the KGB recaptures him,
How are you getting him out of Hawaii?
and the Cold War escalates.
I'm trying me.
It's spy versus spy on Magnum. Saturday at 7 on Channel 2.
Now, a surprise for your legs. Sheer Elegance Pantyhose presents
Silky, silky support.
the look of silk. Surprise, there's a whisper of support.
Sheer, elegant, silky support. Silky by day, silky by night. Silky, silky support.
Looks like sheer elegance. Surprise, it's silky support.
Silky.
From Legs Sheer Elegance.
Silky support.
Must be something left over from last year's show. Oh, I think I hear somebody coming. I better disappear.
Chewy, 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 Nature Valley chewy. Chewy, chewy taste, chewy, chewy fun. Chewy, chewy goodness in everyone. Chewy, 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 Nature Valley chewy. Granola bars.
With real creamy peanut butter or chocolatey chocolate chips. No additives or preservatives.
Chewy, 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 Nature Valley chewy. Granola bars.
Good taste makes good sense with Nature Valley.
Welcome, everyone. Long time. I know it's been a minute. That's 100% my fault. I have missed you guys, though. Sometimes this place, man. I don't even like saying YouTube streets because it's like a fucking cliche now. Hold on a second. I was gonna sneeze, but I couldn't sneeze. Okay. But yeah, it's like a cliche now, you know? Uh it's uh it's a lot. And so, sometimes you just need to breathe. Sometimes you just need to breathe, let your hair down, you got to do it. Now today seemed like a good enough day as any to discuss. I saw that early this morning, well, semi early, not Betty early. That's crazy. But normal person early. Dietz was live and she went over, and I thought about this because I know she wouldn't mind me using the stream. I just it's necessary that it's there and it's out there, but there doesn't need to be a, because at the end of the day, I mean, it's no secret where Don and Candace are, but at the same time, I you guys know where to find it to see what JLR did, and more importantly to me, that's evidence. That's really important that Dietz did that. I'm really glad she managed to catch it before he made it private, like the coward that he is. And so, but I'm just saying, I've seen it. Go check it out. I just don't need to feel the need to go over it here. We all know what happened. And I thought it was really disgusting how it I mean, this guy just doesn't quit, man. He's not gonna, he's not gonna until someone seriously gets hurt or a case is really, like, a victim is really cost justice. And the FBI gets sick of it, because the thing is I mean, whose jurisdiction does he fall under if he's doing the same thing in every town where a crime took place? Yeah, I mean, yeah, and I know because when Dietz was live, she was doing it like in real time. And White Boy was giving updates, I guess, because he was speaking to Don. So now the question is, did JLR get arrested? The answer is no, he did not get arrested. It's possible that, this thing, that just because he goes and he does what he does and they don't arrest him right then and there, understand that maybe, because this is the kind of world I want to live in. It's just a fantasy, okay? But I would love to think that law enforcement collectively is getting sick of these irresponsible YouTubers. And he's a perfect example to be made of. He's the kind of YouTuber that you build a case against so that you can actually put him away and he does time. So that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping, what I'm kind of in my own way praying for is the strength and wisdom to trust that when we sit here on this channel, and talk about these cases and these tragedy pimps and what they do. You know, one of the things that we talk about when we cover cases and the irresponsible way of covering cases is to always remember that it takes time to build a case. This is a concept that Battery Betty does not seem to understand. And so after the Murdaugh thing, for all we know, maybe it's a federal case because he travels from state to state doing the same thing. I don't know if that's something they're doing, but it's comforting to think that. It's absolutely comforting to think that the same things that we would defend law enforcement for doing when it comes to these cases and building enough evidence so that they can put somebody away beyond a reasonable doubt. Well, maybe that's what they're trying to do with JLR at the moment. And I'm hoping that that's the case, because thousands of people are seeing this and some are cheering it on, sure. But some are cheering it on. Others are very upset about it as much as we are. We don't like to see these things. We don't like to see people get harassed. We don't like to see people exploit people by harassing them. We don't like to see justice being tampered with. Sorry, I like to look at chat here and there. Because, right, yeah, I mean, you're saying stalking is not appropriate. Of course it's not. Stalking's a crime. So what he's doing is absolutely stalking. And he's hiding behind this excuse that he's a gonzo media journalist when he's not. He's nothing like a gonzo media journalist. He's just somebody who does whatever he wants and likes to hide behind freedom of the press, which is only going to fly for so long. So we're just going to have patience, people. I mean, that's all we're going to be able to do, because there's nothing that we can do, other than try to expose the type of person that he is, try to convince people to have a higher standard for their YouTubers so that these people are not enabled in doing the things that they do. I mean, there's not a whole lot that we can do. And it was all just for content. He thought it would be a cool idea to go show up there the day before Summer's the anniversary of her disappearance. That was just disgusting. That's exactly how I saw that. That's exactly how I visualized that. That's exactly how I took from that. I mean, he is a content creator, and the timing can't be a coincidence. But speaking of which,
the very first age-progressed photo of a missing Hawkins County girl has been released. Thanks for joining us for News Channel 11 at 5 o'clock today. I'm Josh Smith.
I'm Sarah Diamond. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children just released this photo of Summer Wells this afternoon on the eve of the 2-year anniversary of her being reported missing.
Ansley Daniels here. She spoke with center officials after this case, which is still an active Amber Alert tonight, has now moved into its second year of an investigation. Look for coverage of that throughout the day tomorrow. But let's go to Ansley now to learn more about how this photo was created. Ansley?
Yeah, Josh and Sarah, Summer was just 5 years old when she was reported missing. And of course, her features could change a lot in 2 years. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children has a team of forensic imaging artists that merge features from reference photos with their ability to estimate how a child's face will develop. Limi Kong Sofer is the director of case management for the center's Missing Children's Division. She says it actually takes about 8 hours to complete just one age-progressed photo.
They try to collect as much as possible what's called reference photos. And although ideally these are photos of the parents at the time that or at the age that the child is missing currently, really any family photos, any sibling photos, any parent photos at whatever age is very helpful.
Kong Sofer tells me the center's artists actually get emotionally attached to the children as they spend a lot of time looking at their lives through photos. They also say that anecdotally, the center has seen some success with these photos. Sometimes it is a feature like the child's eyes that get recognized, which then helps solve the case. The center says an age-progressed photo will be provided every 2 years that a child is missing into adulthood. Summer Wells disappeared on June the 15th back in 2021. If you have any credible tips that you think could help find her, you should reach out to the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. That contact information is on WJHL.com.
Okay, so I just want to say, first of all, how and perfectly imperfect with all of the links that you're sharing. I really appreciate that. I want to say, first of all, that it's very comforting to know that the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children are working closely with the TBI, and the TBI signed off on this and released it on their Twitter. That's where everyone got it today. I think it's pretty amazing that they do that. I mean, it's fantastic. And I just watched this was the first time watching that news clip. I just thought it would be a great thing to share. But it got me thinking, because see, I'm seeing this a lot. I'm so glad that somebody in my chat came through. So I'm seeing these comments, I'm seeing comments that are, that she looks a lot older than 7. Now, maybe she does, but, there's a lot of people leaving comments that are saying that can't be accurate. She looks too old. There's this with her teeth and that. They just explained their process. First of all, there's clearly a process here that is beyond your education and mine when it comes to making these computer generated guesses. Okay? Because that's what they are. They are computer generated, educated guesses as to what this child that they don't know personally could look like today, most likely. Based on, and you heard the reporter, because this was the first time I heard it. You heard the reporter say that they take photos of the parents at the same age of childhood they said, including photos of the parents that, of the same age of the child as the child would look, or the parents looked at that age, and take old pictures of her, and they kind of throw this thing together more or less. And it's absolutely a guesstimation. Thank you, Nikki Hansen. It's absolutely a guesstimation. These people their job is not to predict the future. Their job is to take a guess at what the future might look like, most likely based on computer imaging, based on their own traits of what they could see, the differences and similarities, the similarities specifically between the parents and the child. And as you all could see, and I noticed that a while back, that there's one specific picture. In fact, the picture that is posted next to the computer generated re-enhancement, that picture, to me, I always thought, I was like, I could really see Candace in her. She really looks a lot like Candace. And the thing is people are sitting here going, nah, that can't be accurate because Summer's only 7. That looks more like a 14-year-old to me, or that looks more like a teenager to me, or that looks more like a preteen to me. Well, stop and think before you guys start jumping to these conclusions, okay? Like I said, first off, you don't do that for a living. These people do. And that particular tool that they use has proven to be effective in locating missing children years later. So you don't get to say what's accurate, what's not. I don't get to say that because we have no idea what Summer looks like right now. We have no idea what changes her body has taken place, the bone structure, nothing. We have no idea. We don't know how much weight she's gained or lost. We don't know what she's done with her hair. We have no idea. So there's, right, Danny Mitchell, exactly. I mean, when did we at this channel stop trusting the experts who have more experience at something than we do individually? I thought that's what we do here. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, I ain't mad at nobody. Just saying, like, we know better than that. Okay. Now, you can't sit here and just look at this child and be like, this is what she's going to look like today. They used a proven science that is the closest thing to guessing the future. And, you know, right, exactly. They're trained. They're trained. We're not. Okay. The best thing that we can do is take that tool and use it. That's the best thing that we can do. Share it. It's the closest thing to a current picture that we have. It's the closest thing to a current picture that we have, guys. You know? And the best thing that we can do is share it. The best thing that we can do is hope for the best and hope that it helps. They do this every 2 years. There's obviously a science to it. I mean, the thing is, you got to understand, like, how can anyone predict how a child is going to grow? How many times have you seen a nephew or a grandkid and been like, oh my God, how did you grow so fast? You know what I mean? Like, you're looking at, like, I'm even going to, let's just, for the benefit of the doubt, let's say, all right, she does look older than 7 in that picture. I think certain things are kind of playing with our minds when we look at it, because that picture is 100% generated, including the background. It looks like a school photograph. So that right there is probably going to put a little bit of age on her if she's posing for a picture that she never took. It's not a picture of her. Okay. It's not a photograph taken of her. It's just, it's the way the program, I guess, is for the presentation. So it's easy to think, oh man, she looks older than, you know, because she has a more dignified look on her face, you know, because it's computer generated. It's not, you know. Also, another thing that we have to consider, something that would be ridiculous to not consider. I mean, look at Dawn and Candace, right? Is it so weird to think, based on Candace's stature alone, not to mention Dawn, but Candace's stature alone, is it so hard to believe that maybe she developed early? Is it so hard to believe that at 7 years old, Candace might have looked 11 or 12? You've never seen a 7-year-old that looked older, that developed really fast, shot up in height, gained certain weight, lost weight in certain places? Not only is it not out of the realm of possibilities, it's a likelihood. If they just said that they generate based on, and they actually use the parents' pictures when they were kids to help get this generated photograph, you know, I mean, and you're saying the teeth are throwing you off. Maybe that's what Candace's teeth looked like back then. Maybe she dropped her baby teeth early and grew the other teeth in. I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying. I mean, nobody, You guys are like expecting, you know, this to be this, oh my God, it's a new picture of Summer taken today. No, it's not. It's totally fictional. It is a computer generated inspiration. That's all it is. I mean, right. Thank you, Boston Beauty by KK. Exactly. It's not supposed to be an exact match. FBI will tell you that. And maybe the TBI didn't feel the need to explain that in Twitter because he figured that most of us could be thinkers who think, you know, all right, well, I know that's not actually a picture of her. It's just designed to be a reference that in case to give you an idea of how she may or may not have aged in the last 2 years. That's all. That's all it is. You know? I mean, we're supposed to be these, you know, thinkers in here, man. We're supposed to be these thinkers in here, man, where we, you know, we understand these things. We take these things into consideration. It's silly to debate the accuracy of something computer generated that doesn't actually exist. It's not an actual picture. We don't know what Summer looks like today. We've no idea. That's the closest thing to an idea that we're going to have. It's all it is. It's all it is. No reason for us to argue over the accuracy of something that it is impossible to execute accuracy on. It can't be done. Impossible. Nobody knows what she looks like right now. Nikki Hansen, welcome. Yeah, so I was just, yeah, and the pick lasts for the next 2 years. So they have to factor in, that's another reason. It makes sense that they probably would factor in what she might look like 2 years from now to some degree. I mean, some kids change a lot. Some kids don't change that much. They haven't said one way or the other. They just said that they are treating this investigation like a missing persons investigation. There's no reason for them to look into it otherwise. That is what I've heard them say. Which right there tells you that all of these other YouTubers are just looking for any reason to try to spin that these people are suspects when there's nothing saying that they're suspects. You know, there's nothing but these people on YouTube saying that they're suspects. Nobody wants to pay attention to that. You know, like there's nothing, literally nothing but uneducated, greedy dickheads saying what happened to Summer. What do you, I mean, you don't even have to like, that's just barely common sense. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't take intelligence at all. Like, why would you not question the source of your information? Right. And what's funny is the TBI has said this. You know how fucked up it is that the TBI just doesn't even feel the need to say this because nobody fucking seems to listen. They did not feel the need to put on a press conference this year and remind everyone where they are on the case, which is probably nowhere. But I don't have any reason to believe that they're not trying to find her. You know? I mean, when you look at the evidence, when you look at the property, just the property alone, it's absolutely plausible that she could have been taken. Totally. But she could have wandered off. And the reason why they're not saying that she was abducted or that they believe she was abducted is because they have a responsibility to only say things based on the evidence that they have. And since they don't have any evidence that there was an abduction, they can't sit there and publicly say that they think that she was abducted. There's nothing to lead them to think that. So they're just thinking about, they're saying everything's on the table. Everything's on the table means they don't know shit. Or they're not telling us shit. But I mean, I have no reason to believe that they haven't stopped looking or that they've stopped looking for. I have no reason to believe that they think that there's any foul play. There's different things. I mean, you got to understand. You got missing persons detectives, people who work for missing persons, don't investigate homicides. You know what I mean? So they're clearly not investigating a homicide. This is a missing persons case. That means they don't know what happened to her. I mean, and it's really sad because I think that a lot of the people who feel that Summer has met her demise are good people. I think they are. I think that a lot of them, I dare to even say that they believe this. They want to believe this because it brings them some sort of closure. Because the idea of a little girl being out there that nobody knows where she is a scary, scary, horrible thought. And a lot of people simply have a hard time facing that and coping with that reality. Where you've seen videos of this child, you've seen their parents talking, you see their parents not doing things that you would approve of necessarily, and then you think of the fact that there's the possibility that there is this little girl out there who has no one that she can count on at the moment. Because nobody knows where she is. Not saying because nobody cares. I'm saying because nobody knows where she is. And they probably don't even have anywhere to start, for all we know. And that is a very, very difficult thought to have to process and cope with if you're an empathetic person. So for some people, it makes more sense to jump to the conclusion, and it's easier for them to cope if they give themselves some sort of imaginary closure and think the worst. Hell, we saw Don and Candace do it. We saw them both go, man, we think she's gone. Because they've dealt with a missing person in their life already. They've already gone through having hope and giving up hope. And then this happens. You know what I mean? So I don't know what it's like to be in that situation for them. I have no fucking idea what that could ever be like. But I'm not going to all of a sudden, knowing so little about them and what's going on in their minds and in their hearts, I'm not going to jump to the worst conclusion. I just can't in good conscience do that. But I am understanding that some people But this is the thing, is I think that the tragedy pimps, they feed off of this type of subscriber. They attract that, you know, and then they do it with this fake cloak of empathy, like, oh, you know, we're Summer's army. We're Summer's army, and we're doing this for her because that little girl. And they all seem to do it, right? Remember, MGL was sitting there saying, "That's my little gal. That's my little girl. That's not this." Saying the most disgusting shit about somebody else's kid. You know? I mean, and this was just like right before or right after they got them fired from their job. But this is what they do to get people roped in. They say, "Oh, we love her. We're all she has." Get the fuck out of my face. No. She has 3 different law enforcement agencies looking for her. I mean, yeah, well, you do it through your actions, man. You know what I mean? You do it through your actions. Why not support these parents? Think about it. Now, I'm not defending Don for going on every YouTube channel instead of just going to the law and collecting information and collecting evidence of all the harassment that he's getting. I'm not defending him for, instead of doing that, then, you know, just going on every YouTube channel and thinking that, you know, just getting everybody to go, you know, I mean, you know, having him just tell everybody how horrible it's been and what a hard time they're going through and everything. I mean, like, we got it. We know they don't care that you're not going to reach them. The wrong way to fix that problem of you being harassed is to go on YouTube channels and complain about it. The right way is to gather evidence and build a case against them and make an example of them. Or just take it. You know what I mean? But you don't get to, yeah, I mean, the wrong way to do it is to go on every YouTube channel and complain. You know, like, I understand doing it once or twice, but then it becomes like a back and forth. And now they're in some, I mean, and it's not good for their investigation. It's not doing anything to help find Summer. You know, but the thing is I'm never going to start badgering them because I don't like that they do that. You know what I mean? The only thing I can do is what I can do. And what I can do is try to follow law enforcement's lead. Law enforcement is saying that the reason why social media, the reason why they don't get any credible tips is because of all of this shit that goes on social media. So, I mean, I'm not going to contribute to that, you know, because I believe that what Dawn is doing is adding to that. And like I said, it's not helping find Summer. Now, I understand his need for some reason to defend himself. And I understand that they are not used to this kind of attention. They don't know how to deal with it. They just see people talking about them and they're like, why are they saying this? But and yes, it's just become a toxic echo chamber. And I think at this point, yeah, I mean, it's just going to boil down to the victims, because at the end of the day, it's just going to be me doing what I'm doing. You know what I mean? But that's not really stopping anything. It pumps the brakes a little here and there, but that doesn't, and that's even an overstatement. I mean, it barely makes a ripple, it's me sitting up here and feuding with them and going over their shit. All it does is bring some attention to it, hopefully change some minds, and have a higher standard for their content, for their true crime content, and try to have some more empathy for the victims, and try to add some perspective to how we look at some of these victims' family members who everybody is quick to throw accusations at, because I mean, all of these things that I say that I disagree with Don on, I mean, that still is not enough for me to find him suspicious of committing a crime. That's perfectly said. Yo, and you know what? Let me see something. Oh, okay. Bottom line is no one knows the facts, period. Only fact we all know and have in common is she is missing. Anything else is reckless conjecture on speculation that's based on biases. It's gross. Right. I mean, there's no evidence of anything. What law enforcement has always said is that they have no reason to treat this other than a missing persons investigation. That doesn't mean that they're speaking in code. That doesn't mean that they're going behind the scenes and they're not trying to fool you. All they're doing is stating what they can responsibly say publicly. I mean, there's nothing, tricky about it. They say we're still treating this as a missing persons investigation because we don't have any reason not to at this time. That's what they always say. Thank you, Southwest 4x4 Explorers. There are more creators who don't have morals and ethics than there are really good ones. Thanks, Will, for being a really good one. I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, I'm not. It's just so funny when people think that they're smart, common sense people, but they fail to actually assess their method of collecting information to draw a conclusion. Because if you actually break down how you drew the conclusion that you came to, that Summer has been trafficked or killed or what, you would actually be able to break down how you came to that conclusion through logic, through facts. But since I mean, yeah, I'm questioning their thinking skills, because all they would have to do is realize that they had no logic, or they just don't know the difference between what's logical and what isn't. Well, right. I mean, yeah. Ashley V saying, dear Mr. and Mrs. Wells, doing social media is wrong and life wrong in general. I have compassion, but you got to help yourself before you receive real help from good people. I mean, well, I gave him the best help he could get. I told him to fucking stay off YouTube. Like, that was the best help. I guarantee you. I don't think anybody besides me was telling him, as far as creators going, having him up on the channel. I don't think anybody was telling him to do that other than me. And I'm not saying that because I'm like want some sort of credit for something. I'm saying it's fucked up. It's crazy. But I gave him very, very clear and very, oh, and Queen did good. Very clear and very direct advice. Because the funny thing about that is I don't like to see it happening to them. That's my whole thing, is I can't stand that. I can't stand watching it happen. I can't stand hearing about it. It makes me genuinely angry and upset every time I see these people get harassed. Right. Lawyer Mystery Maven. That's what I'm saying. And he knows it too. He sat up here and he was just like, yeah, I know. And I was like, well, come on, man. Because I don't think that he doesn't care about Summer. I don't think that at all. I'm saying he's making it harder on himself to convince his critics, for lack of a better term, that he actually does care. Because they don't want to think to the point and consider the idea that this guy just thinks that the best way to address the problem is to address it through YouTube. You know? Or to find sympathy through certain YouTubers who are feuding with another YouTuber that's attacking them. I mean, that only fuels the problem. It's only going to fuel the problem. And there are really good, intelligent people out there that see this, but they're also just not thinking that he's just, you know, he just thinks that that's the way to deal with it. To try to reason with these people, try to talk to them, and he's always trying to reason with them. He's always trying to get on their good side. But these people, what they're doing doesn't come from you. You're not going to access the good side of them if you've just given them what the sinister side of them wants, which is the chance to talk to you live on their YouTube channel. I mean, it's not possible. It's not going to happen. You know, they're already seeing dollar signs. And it's not that you can't reason with stupid. That's true. But I'm not even calling some of these creators stupid. I'm calling them just greedy fucks. Sinister pieces of shit. Because they don't have anything tangible to base their theories on that they spread around on their channels. And they know it. They know it, and they manipulate things. Like dumb, not that guy. The flab. What the fuck is his name? Josh. Yeah, by manipulating that little clip snippet from the TBI at a press conference and Sheriff Hawkins. I mean, he's playing half of the thing, and he's sitting there trying to say that it's you hear Sheriff Lawson say it right there. You hear him say it right there. But you also you know they didn't lawyer up, so you deliberately cut out the fact that he claimed that they had lawyers when they didn't have lawyers. In fact, I mean, so when you give these people, when they're sitting there trying to play you into being, because they sit there and go, well, Don, make me understand. Talk to me, make me understand. All right, come on up. And then, you know what I mean? Like, and then they just tear him apart and they hope he's drunk. Dude, that last time when he said, I've been drinking, full disclosure, I've been drinking, I had already let the guy up. But I was already like, if this guy starts to fucking say crazy shit, I'm going to boot him right the fuck off. Because I just don't want that. That doesn't help find Summer. It doesn't do anything to help find Summer. It doesn't do anything to help find out what happened to Summer. Why? Because it's been 2 years, and every time he goes up there, he only admits to the most wildest, insane other shit. But never breaks about Summer. It doesn't add up. The guy's not smart enough to fool all of these law enforcement agencies and all of this public that's following this and trying to pick apart every single thing that he says. It's just too unlikely. No, I mean, I really hope. I mean, they filed a report. Maybe they couldn't have done anything. So, as I understand it, Candace filed a report. Gave a statement, which is exactly what they should do. No, there's nothing I could do about it to make it stop, but that's not my responsibility. That's what I was getting at. It's the victim's responsibility, because we all want a white knight for them, and that's all good, because we can defend their right to a peaceful existence. Absolutely. That's never a bad thing, but at least not in my belief. But we could do this until we turn blue. It's not going to matter until the victims file charges against these people, or file lawsuits. I mean, everybody's like, they need to take this down. Somebody needs to take these creators down. Like, I'm not with that shit. You know what I mean? I'm not with like mass reporting and all that. I'm not with that. But the thing is you got to understand, YouTube is in a partnership with the creator. That's a legally binding thing. YouTube is in a partnership with the creator. YouTube doesn't want to be in a partnership with people who do fucked up things and it's about to be proven in court. You notice that's always what's happening? Except it didn't happen to MGL. But who knows? Who knows? But look at Canceled Karen. Look at Canceled Karen. Like, she gets sued for $10 million. You could have mass reported her all fucking day. She wouldn't have gotten her channel taken down. I honestly believe it was the fact that Ray Andriacchio filed a $10 million lawsuit against her and took her to court. And that's why she was booted off of YouTube. Like, it's just a matter of time. You know what I mean? Like, you got to have faith. These things take time, you know? But I do believe, I mean, that was what happened. It took the victim of a case that she was talking about to make an example of her and say, I don't have to fucking take this. I don't know why MGL got booted off of YouTube, but I don't know. So, I mean, we got to have that kind of patience, the same patience that our common sense tells us to have when it comes to, you know, law enforcement building a case against someone, you know, and that taking time. We got to have that same patience and same common sense when it comes to how YouTube works. You know, YouTube's confusing. I mean, it's got to be doing something right if it's this multi-billion-dollar conglomerate, you know, part of Google. I mean, it's crazy. You know, they got to know what they're doing. I mean, I'm sure there's flaws. I'm sure there's little problems here and there, but I mean, YouTube usually comes through. It just takes some time. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah, that'll do it. Yeah, she did. She was, oh, yeah, that's what it was. She was going off about transphobia. She was just like saying the most transphobic shit ever. That's what got MGL booted. Or at least that's the theory. Oh, man. Yeah, I got drunk and decided to see what would happen if I posted because I was listening to the Trump stuff and I was just like, I'm gonna fucking run for president. Let me see what happens. Let me see what the comments are. Thanks for indulging me, guys. That was fun. Yeah, and then Betty does. It's just so funny to me, dude. I wonder if it's still up. Betty's like, I have confirmed JLR has not been arrested. Dude, man, I don't want to turn this into that subject because I don't like Trump, okay? But I got opinions on this thing, and I've talked about him before, but you know, yeah, I'm not getting into that today. Brianna 25, thanks so much. You still haven't said who your running mate will be, though. Vice President Dietz, perhaps, or VP Annie, 10 to life. Hell no, I couldn't even get her endorsement. Nah, man. I'm going to do it solo. I'll need a VP. I'll do that shit horrible bosses style and just give myself both jobs. Fuck that. Oh, man. Dude, I don't want to get into it. I really don't. So Betty posts she's always got a white knight for this guy. I have confirmed JLR is not nor has been arrested. Quit lying for clicks and views. I don't think he's been arrested, but he got spooked. You know how I know he got spooked? because he made the video private. I mean, he had to think of that only as evidence of him harassing someone. He already had a report filed on him over the Murdoch thing. See, laugh at life. Yeah. I mean, the funny thing is I have such an indifference for politics, like emotionally. I have a total indifference for it emotionally, so I can easily talk about it. It's people that bother me. It's people. But I mean, Chloe Jade, thank you so much. Welcome. But yeah, you're right. The most intelligent people that you know, like, never talk about politics. They never talk about what they think politically. Those are usually the smartest people in the room, who are just listening, not talking. And I don't claim to be one of those people. I'm just saying, just being totally honest. The smartest people in the room are just listening to that political discussion. They're not getting involved. Just saying. But I'm not one of those people. So that's all I had to say on those two things. So yeah, if you guys feel like hanging out a bit, we'll go over some canceled Karen. We got another one of her Patreon streams. It's great. Wait. Okay.
Happy Thursday night, episode 6 of this riveting, very entertaining.
All right, so let me fill you guys in real quick. Cherry, don't do it. Don't do it. Shut up. So this is about the documentary The Curious Case of Natalia Grace. Okay. Now, if you guys aren't aware, the name doesn't sound familiar. Natalia Grace this is from back in the day. This is an old case, but there's a recent documentary on it, and that's probably why she went over it. I've seen, so there's a lot of speculation. Okay, so this is the case of, thank you, Lex. PayPal is better. All of you are the best. Cheers. Thank you so much. So if you've ever seen the horror movie Orphan, that movie is inspired by this story. But because that movie Orphan exists, we're sitting here and we're really quick, and this is really interesting. But we're really quick to draw conclusions on how this situation went. And this documentary series, I have to say, was extremely telling. I watched it myself. It was extremely telling. So we'll get to talk about this a little bit, but we're gonna make fun of canceled Karen while we do it. It's like a double shot. I love it.
Consuming documentary.
All right. So yeah, real quick, it's definitely what's going on with this is she was these people adopted this girl. She they said she was like, I think it was like 5 years old or something like that. And I streamed it on HBO Max, Joneson. So and they adopted her thinking they were getting a 4 or a 5-year-old. And there was all this stuff about her seeming older because she's a little person. Oh, she was supposed to be 6. Okay. And it's on Prime too. Okay, thank you, Deets. So yeah, see, y'all are throwing a bunch of different ages out there. You see what I'm talking about? So that's interesting. It's just very interesting. But I'm getting the feeling, because I haven't watched this yet, I like to react. I'm getting the feeling that Canceled Karen and I are probably going to agree on a lot on this one, actually. But we'll see. I don't know.
About the real life orphan, Natalia Barnett. Now, if you've seen the movie The Orphan, you're going to be asking yourself, is this life imitating art or art imitating life? The movie The Orphan, as I understand it, because I've seen it, but I wasn't sure when it was made. And I read today it was made in 2009. And 2010 is when this case, for all intents and purposes, this particular case begins. It's not when Natalia's story begins, obviously, but it's when her story with these people, with this family, the Barnett family. It's their story. It's her story. A lot of people involved. So,
I mean, not really.
Was it life imitating art or was it art imitating?
I mean, not really. They had a couple other kids, and so the dad had like they had natural kids, and their firstborn is high functioning autistic, and he was like kind of famous a little bit there for a minute at a very young age.
I don't know, because there's an argument that can be made that it's almost cliche. The problems that come out of Ukraine's adoption system and their orphanage system. So many people, it's well understood to the point where potential adopting parents will avoid adopting from Ukraine because, it's sad. Tragically, it's a real gamble what you're going to get. In this case is kind of worst case scenario, if you will, in terms of what goes wrong in the Ukrainian orphan system,
bro.
and our adoption system over here, which is, in my opinion, an utter failure. And what can go wrong
See, I didn't think about this, because she's going to get into the adoption system, in which the adoption system is definitely accountable in this case, because how the fuck do you not know how old somebody is,
a closed adoption like this happens, and you have people end up with a human being that they're ill-equipped to handle. So I'm going to kind of go between, I'm going to start out with an article from the New York Post that sort of synopsizes the case. And then I'm going to go into talking about the documentary and share my thoughts on that. And then I have another article, and then I have a little video clip from, I think, episode 5 that I'm going to play. So let's start out with the article from the New York Post, dated May 26th.
You're not going to have a man alive this time?
2023. We adopted a little girl, but now we think she's a sociopath adult. When Indiana couple Michael and Christine Barnett adopted 6-year-old, air fingers quote, Natalia Grace, a girl originally from Ukraine, in April 2010, it was a dream come true. And the documentary does really...
Yeah, right. That as soon as the thought of a monologue happened, I was like,
No. No. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. No. 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 Hell no. 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 I refuse. No.
I was absolutely like, just the thought of her.
No. 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 Wait. 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 Wait.
It's just, I can't. It's excruciating. Thank you, Tracy. Appreciate it. It's good to be back. It's good to see you guys again.
Portray that. You see mostly from, well, you see from Michael's side, because Christine, I don't know if Christine will ever talk to these producers or will ever have an episode where she talks. I doubt it. So you hear from his side how that all went down and their reasons for doing it. And they just leapt headlong into it. They had what they felt was a successful nuclear family unit. The two of them had 3 boys, biological.
And I gotta be honest with you guys. The dad, I can't fucking stand this dude. Like, if you watch this documentary and you watch this dad, you're either feeling sorry for him because you're a fucking idiot, or he's getting on your last nerve. Even his lawyer, you could just tell that his lawyer was like, fuck. Both of his lawyers, like, they were both just like, Jesus Christ, this guy. Unbelievably over dramatic and a liar. Yes. Unbelievably over dramatic.
Logically together and a happy family. And he says that he had several $100,000 in the bank, and he had a car, a driveway full of nice cars, expensive cars. And he had, as he describes it, a McMansion. And he said, we were living the all-American dream. We were taking fabulous vacations, and our oldest son, although on the spectrum, is very brilliant, and his future was looking very bright. He had I believe, a scholarship offer from a university in Canada, I believe. And he says, we felt so great about our lives and our family, and everything was wonderful. And indeed, even a neighbor of theirs said, yeah, look, if I was a child up for adoption and this family came for me, I would be thinking jackpot. They had everything a great family could offer, by his admission. Nothing really in his initial statements in the documentary about any real major marital problems or concerns that he had about Christine. In fact, he details his life as being sort of Norman Rockwell-ish and perfect, and they had so much love in their family that they wanted to share it with a child who would probably be denied love and attention under other circumstances, and a child that would desperately need them. And they felt, look, we have so much to give. We have so much to offer. We have room for one more. And they initially had lined up a little girl out of Haiti. And after the earthquake, that fell through because Haiti stopped all the adoptions. And than an adoption.
Shut up! Oh my God, I don't care!
Child that would be a perfect fit for your family. And we've read your home study, and we believe that your home would be perfect for this child. But however, and this is according to Mike Barnett, he claims that they said to him,
Yeah, she did end up being older than what she said she was, but she wasn't like the age that they were trying to say that she was. Like, that was like, they were charged accordingly, okay, because they definitely broke the law. She was a minor, they were responsible for her. They put her in a fucking apartment, and they basically just blew her off. And it almost seemed like they were like going after her in a way. Like, it was really weird. Like, he was filming all of the interactions with his phone, with everything that he was doing with her, as if, he was trying to protect himself, because he was, but it was really just him being super fucking dramatic. Yeah, they left, right, with no phone. Exactly. I mean, yeah, this was, and the thing is, though, like, they absolutely abused her and controlled her. But I think that here's the thing is, and it's not a defense at all. These people fucking suck. They were rightfully charged, and they should be held accountable absolutely for what they did. But the fact is at the same time, I could see how irrational people might see that she is deceptive, much more deceptive than what someone her age, when you've raised 3 other kids, and someone her age, or 3 or 4 other kids, someone her age, that she's supposed to be. She's speaking articulately. She's definitely older than what she is, but they're thinking it's sinister, so they're thinking the worst. They're thinking she's in her 20s, right? But what they should have done is really tried to find out and been like, we don't know how fucking old she is. She could still be a fucking minor. You know what I mean? But that's not what happened. These people acted totally irrationally to the situation. Now, again, I don't know. I mean, that's a mind fuck. You adopt a kid that you think is 6 years old, and she turns out to be definitely significantly older. And she's making sexual references to people, and she's, it's going to come off as sinister. That's a hell of a far cry from an innocent little 6-year-old girl. And that could easily be the behavior of a 16-year-old girl. You know what I mean? So you can't just stick the kid in an apartment and be like, good luck. But that's not even what happened. They still were possessive over her while she was in the apartment. They just didn't they didn't take care of her well. They were definitely, their behavior was, I guess, passive aggressive is the word to use, but it was abusive. It was definitely abusive. For sure. I don't have any doubt in my mind that what they did to her was totally abusive. But I think both of these parents are total shitbags, totally self-involved. And this dude is super malicious. Like, at one point they ask him, or I think his lawyer asked him something about, do you want her to go to jail? Do you want your wife to go to jail? Right? And he was like, go to jail? I want her to burn in hell. He was so aggressive with that statement. And he was doing it to show out. It was really weird. It was really weird. And it's like you're not doing anybody any favors here by, you're not doing yourself any favors here by coming off as completely just a spiteful shitbag. Dude, I watched this guy for like 2 days, man. He's like fucking embedded in my brain.
But this is a closed adoption, so we can only give you so much information. There's only so much we can tell you until you commit to it, and you have 24 hours to commit. And once you commit, that's it. You're in it. You're in it. And this is the story according to him. And so they take the time to think, and
it's extremely biased. It is. It's extremely biased because it's all him, but then again, we were never getting Kelly's side of the story, were we? Were we? Canceled Karen. But yeah, I believe they're definitely divorced. This guy is incredibly dramatic. He's not consistent in his story, and he's the one that's the main subject of the documentary. And it probably would have done his wife some good to actually comment on it at some point, knowing who the fuck this guy is. I mean, she was married to this guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, you've got to know how he's going to be in this documentary. Dude, I have exes that I'm like, if that ex was in a documentary, this is exactly what she'd be like. You know what I mean? Like, and the dude didn't disappoint if she foresaw that. You know what I mean? Like, he is the stuff with the baseball bat. I'm mad. When I'm mad, I throw stuff. It's good look, bro. Good look.
And they say, yep, we want to do this. And they leapt in sort of with blindfolds on a lark, it seems, according to him. They made the decision very rapidly, didn't really think it through. According to him, they weren't really given the opportunity to meet her first and to really learn anything about her particular disabilities and her circumstances and her potential story. They just sort of went into this blindly and were really excited about it and went and scooped her up and collected her. And the article continues, but almost immediately the Barnetts claim they found themselves living a nightmare. Natalia, and this is a quote from Michael Barnett, Natalia threatened to stab my sons, drag their bodies outside, and bury them under the deck. And he claims she tried to poison and kill my wife. And quote, she's a sociopath. In the 6-part series, Michael details the terror he, Christine, and their biological sons, Jacob, Wesley, and Ethan, Jacob being the oldest, Wesley is the middle child, Ethan is the 6-year-old, who would have been the same age at that time as the Airfingers, quote, 6-year-old Natalia. And Michael says in the documentary that he felt, oh, this is perfect. They can kind of grow up together as twins. And he claims that what they endured at the hands of Natalia, who was born with a rare form of dwarfism called spondyloepiphyseal dysplasia congenita. He says, quote, or Beth Karras, legal analyst Beth Karras says in the documentary, quote, what they'd hoped would be a very happy home life turned into a true life horror story. And the article continues, but was Natalia the perpetrator or the victim? On April 26, 2010, after retrieving Natalia from the adoption center by Shepherd Care Agency in Hollywood, Florida, the Barnetts allegedly made a shocking discovery while bathing their new daughter. Now, mind you, they live up in Indiana, so they made this trip down to Hollywood, Florida, to this adoption agency, which Michael Barnett says was a little...
I lived in that nicer part of Hollywood, Florida. And it's not nice. Like if you see that place, like, I mean, they even say it in the documentary, like you see him go, he's talking about it and he's like, the place looks shady as hell, like this is not a real, like, it doesn't look like much of an adoption agency. And it wasn't. And a lot of businesses are like this, where it's like a house. It's just like a one-story house that someone buys, and then they open up their business in it, and use it like an office building. People in Florida do that all the time. I see people in Georgia do it too. But yeah, not too far, about 30 minutes, Zoots, in about 40 minutes. But yeah, that's where, the face eating, about 40 minutes from there. But yeah, it's not right. There's like retirement homes. Well, people will open one of these places up, and as long as it passes like a code to run that particular business, you're fine. You know what I mean? So people will just take a house and flip it into a building. But yeah, like, I mean, did they just go in there and be like, well, we flew here, so, you know what I mean? Like, no, you don't adopt from this agency, dude.
Shady looking. He questioned it when they pulled into the parking lot, but even though he questioned it, he was overridden by his happiness and exuberance in adopting this little girl, fulfilling their dreams come true, to adopt a child who desperately needed what he felt he and his family had to offer, which was unconditional love. And he says that they went and collected her from this adoption agency, and when they did, the family that was handing her over, or that was relinquishing her, rehoming her, for lack of a better term, they dropped her off and they left. They were whisked away, and then she was brought into the room to them, and they signed the papers, and they took her to their Disney World hotel, because they were going to, they had plans of sort of initiating her into the family by spending a week or so at Disney World with her and showing her a wonderful time. I mean, you have to admit, it's well-intended. And he says that when his wife was giving her a bath, she discovered that Natalia had a full pubic hair,
Dude,
not just scant, slight traces of it, but
that had to have been fucking horrifying, dude. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I guess it depends on like how you handle that, I guess. I mean, like how you process something like that, but it's, you're giving a child a bath because you're assuming that she doesn't really know how to take one herself yet. And you're putting her in the bath because she's that young, and you see pubic hair. Like, that will be traumatizing if you think you just adopted a 6-year-old. That's got to be alarming. I mean,
a full amount of it. The article continues, the disturbing find prompted them to believe she was an adult masquerading as a child, despite paperwork showing her date of birth as September 4th, 2003. Later, the couple claimed to have discovered that she'd been menstruating. And he explains this also in the documentary, that she had been hiding things. She was using socks and stuff like that for her menstruation, and hiding it. And when she was confronted on it, he described her as putting her hands out, like how she would talk, like a karate chop hand motion, and said, look, I've been having a period. And he says, quote, we don't know who she is. We don't know where she's really from. Who the F is this person? For all I know, she'd been living in Ukraine for 20 years. He also alleges that Natalia began plotting to murder his family with
you see, they had no fucking idea what they were getting into, and they jumped to the worst conclusion. And they jumped to the worst conclusion because this dude is a fucking drama queen, like the worst of the drama queens.
In the first 4 months of the adoption. Quote, she'd been taking knives out of the kitchen and hiding them under the bed, says Michael in the documentary. And he says that Natalia said, quote, "I'm going to kill you in your sleep." Michael claims that Natalia maliciously baited the Barnett boys onto highway traffic roadways, smeared feces on their faces, spiked Christine's coffee with poisonous cleaning supplies, and attempted to push her into a high voltage electric fence. Michael says that she was screaming during the fence incident, quote, "You effing B, I'm going to kill you. You're going to die." Then in 2012, the couple had Natalia admitted to the LaRue Carter House Mental Hospital in Indianapolis. Quote, "She's not a kid. That's an adult," said an anonymous hospital employee in the documentary. Another mental hospital employee said, quote, "I remember seeing how busty she was. She talked about sex a lot."
Yeah, see, I mean, I don't know nothing about hostile puberty or nothing like that. I'm not going to act like I do. But I'm just saying, like, I mean, I'm saying it would freak me out because I don't know nothing about hostile puberty. You know what I mean? But I mean, I'm not going to totally panic though. I'm going to ask a doctor about it. I'm going to ask a pediatrician. How normal is that? The menstruating thing. Yeah, I guess that could happen early. I guess I'm seeing people in chat saying it, but it obviously was not just those things. That's something that you would tell an authority figure or say the press when trying to give people an idea of what you were dealing with. So those things blended with her vocabulary, blended with her certain things that she understood that would be highly unlikely for a 6-year-old to understand or know anything about. All of these things, I'm sure, played into them feeling like she was older than what she said she was. But they jumped to, because this guy's a drama queen, they jumped to the worst possible conclusion. And they just assumed that she was an adult pretending to be a child and doing this and being this very deceitful person. Whereas she was probably just trying to survive. I mean, because that's what it turns out to feel like, is that she was just a young person, not old enough to be responsible for herself and not know how to relate to people who she's probably gotten used to not being close to. And she's going through the most challenging time of changes in her life. So who knows? I mean, but these are things that one might want to consider before jumping to the conclusion that she is this insane sociopath in her 20s that wants to kill everybody in their sleep. I mean, it just doesn't add up.
A lot. And Natalia was propositioning the men on the unit. Natalia, who did not participate in the documentary and could not be reached by the Post, has publicly denied all of the allegations. In 2019, she went on Dr. Phil and said the claims were, quote, "not true at all." Quote, "I'm 16, she said tearfully. Others who'd encountered Natalia before she lived with the Barnetts say that she was nothing more than a disabled and harmless child who had been bounced around from home to home after arriving in the U.S. in 2008. Quote, "In my heart, Natalia is the daughter I never had," says Judith Irving, a little person who had considered adopting Natalia, but did not end up adopting her. Irving says Natalia's alleged acts of violence against the Barnetts were likely empty threats. Quote, "I find being scared of a child when you're a full-size grown adult a little ridiculous," she says. "The Barnetts wanted to claim she's older than she is. That's just crazy. Who thinks of that?" End quote. Well, I have news for you, Judith Irving. I don't know if you don't follow true crime, but I have news for you. Children can be violent. Children can be scary violent, especially when you have a child who has sociopathy. So you're not thinking clearly and you're a little narrow-minded if you think that it's out of the realm of possibility that a child can become violent and can become a threat to their family. They absolutely can, even a small child. The article continues on. After a month at the mental institution...
I mean, she's not wrong. She's not wrong. Like, to think that a child can't be capable of that, I mean, that's a scary situation, but these were the wrong people for that to happen to, because there are plenty of other people, plenty of other loving families who are, a little bit more credible in their behavior that could have gotten this girl and handled this a lot better. You know what I mean? These are just a couple of idiots who don't appreciate each other and are completely self-involved and have a flair for dramatics. And so because they have this flair for dramatics, they jump to the worst possible conclusion, and then they overreact on how to deal with her because they're thinking that she is this Chucky doll come to life. I mean, come on. Like, common sense would dictate that there's a much more logical explanation than that. But you'd have to be a rational person to consider this.
Natalia was released soon after, and she was released, according to hospital staff, because she was hypersexual and kept presenting herself and offering herself to the numerous men on the psych unit. Soon after, Michael and Christine had her age legally changed to 22 years old and rented her a single-floor apartment in a Westfield, Indiana complex. There, according to the series, residents accused Natalia of stalking, terrorizing, and sexually harassing adults and children in the neighborhood.
See, that's a good point, too.
Quote,
that's a good point, too, is that no one offered any explanations to them. No one considered this. Everyone said she's an adult. She's an adult. Now, that might not be true, though, because we didn't hear any, like, in that documentary, there was the one nurse, you know, but I mean, there had to have been people in their lives that might have considered, you know, the possibility that she was maybe an adolescent, you know, like, why not entertain the idea that she's an adolescent and handle the situation with kid gloves, assuming that she's adolescent. I mean, you already assume that she's 6. Assume that she's an adolescent. That would be the safe way to go. But the thing is, you know, we don't know if anybody offered that possible explanation to them because we're hearing it from this guy. And this guy is a fucking liar. and just he's incredibly irritating.
She's really evil and devious, says former neighbor Sue McCallum in the series. People think, quote, oh, she's small and deformed. She couldn't possibly do all the stuff everybody's saying, but they're wrong, and she did do it, end quote. The landlord refused to renew Natalia's.
Now, what if, because this is not much different than the, what's her name? Rose, something Rose. The Mommy Dead and Dearest thing. I mean, this is not much different than that. See, when you think of a case like this, you automatically want to think of the worst, most craziest Gypsy Rose. Thank you so much. So this isn't much different than that. You know what I mean? Like, Gypsy Rose, I don't believe is a deceitful murderer. I think that she wanted her mom out of her life, but I don't think that she is the type of person. I don't think she's a sociopath. Yeah, Gypsy Rose Blanchard. Thank you. I don't think that she's a sociopath in any way. I mean, she was a curious young girl. She was realizing that what was happening to her was not the right thing, and she was being sexy with somebody, you know, and she was just coming into herself a little bit because she was curious and because she was sheltered, smothered. She was abused as a result of Munchausen by proxy. So this is a person who reacted, in my opinion, reacted to a situation. And you know, she didn't know anything else. You know, she ends up having this boyfriend, and he turns out to be Asperger's and all these behavioral issues. And it's just the way that cookie crumbled. You know what I mean? I don't think that there was anything deliberately evil taking place. I believe that they let themselves perform an evil act because of the circumstances and how they were dealing with them. I think that she deserves to be in prison, but I think that she is going to be rehabilitated once she comes out. So that's how I feel about that. And the reason why I brought that up was, if this girl, with all of the facts that we know now, had actually ended up murdering one of them, we would probably be thinking the same thing. I mean, this guy claims, Michael claims, that she was beating her like a rag doll, that he walked in and saw it. But he's also going through a very nasty divorce. And she did things to hurt him. We saw the receipts in the documentary. Yeah. Sorry, I was looking at chat.
Natalia's lease the following year. The Barnetts, who were preparing to locate to Canada, then placed Natalia in a 2-story apartment building, but without customizations for her special needs. This one in Lafayette, Indiana. According to Beth Karras, she said, quote, "They dumped her. The idea that they would put her in an apartment that didn't have modifications or an occupational therapist is heartbreaking." End quote.
Right. Yeah.
Now, look, I know my haters
Even
like to.
If she was in her 20s, like, how can you do that? You know what I mean? Unless there's some malice there. How can you do that?
Hate it, or my haters love to come after me when I say I was an occupational therapist. And true, I was a certified occupational therapy assistant. I did everything that an occupational therapist does, except the initial eval. Although after 25 years in the field, I could have written the evals because I had read so many and followed so many. So I did the job for 25 years. And I can say with some level of occupational.
You're lying. And you're a piece of shit.
Authority to Beth Karras, I observed Natalia in the documentary. I observed the videos of her that were taken when she was living in the single-story apartment. She didn't need an occupational therapist. She's very strong and very capable, despite her disabilities. I can see that just by looking at her. She's not some helpless, shrinking violet.
Bro, what are you talking about,
capable.
man?
And it's astonishing how capable she is. I mean, it's actually.
See, that's infuriating right there, because she was capable of doing what she needed to do. Fair enough. Physically, yes. But it was fucked up of them to not consider that she could still be a minor and not supply her with those types of modifications, at least certain things to make things easier for her. You know, I mean, she's going to be there on her own. You don't know how old this girl is. You really don't know how old she is. So to sit here and say, because it's an occupational therapist, that doesn't justify the fact that this girl was abandoned in this place without any modifications for her disability, because that's what it was. That's what it is. When you're a minor and you're learning to deal with these things, that is a disability, especially if you don't have anyone helping you. That is, to me, technically a disability. She doesn't know how to be yet. If she's still a minor and she's dealing with these struggles, these physical ailments that make it difficult for her, then it is your responsibility, since you are made responsible for her by law because you adopted her, you're to see that she is in a safe place. Especially if you're not going to supervise her, Like the fact that you left her alone is shitty in and of itself.
It's actually a true testament to her as a human being. You can see that she has incredible upper body strength and she's quite able. So I certainly hope that she's not in living conditions right now where she's being treated like she's incapable, because she's anything but. And that's a true testament to her. She may have benefited from some modifications, but she didn't need an occupational therapist per se. She's a pretty strong gal. And you can tell, pretty capable. The article continues. Michael now claims in the documentary that it was...
Do I trust this person who I review all the time, and what sticks out most about her is her lack of empathy? Do I trust her, even if she's experienced as an occupational therapist, to determine whether or not someone needs help? Someone who clearly has a lack of empathy? So I don't give a shit what her experience tells her. It means nothing.
Was Christine's idea to leave Natalia alone to fend for herself. He also alleges that Christine was cruel to Natalia. Christine is not interviewed for the documentary, and a phone number listed for her was not in service when reached by the Post. The couple divorced in 2014. Shocking, I know. That year, after struggling to survive alone, Natalia moved in with Antoine and Cynthia Mans, whom she'd met by happenstance and had only known for 3 days. So this other couple allows her to move in after only knowing her for 3 days. In the documentary, Beth Karras explains that several law enforcement agencies actively investigated Natalia's case between 2014 and 2019 to determine if she'd been wrongfully abandoned by the Barnetts. In September 2019, Michael and Christine were charged with 2 counts of neglect. Beth Karras tells the Post, quote, one set of the neglect charges was based on Natalia being a child who was abandoned. The other set was based on Natalia being a special needs adult who was abandoned. The prosecution set out to prove that Natalia was actually a minor. In December 2019, they located her birth mother, Anna Gava, who confirmed that Natalie was born in 2003. In footage from a pretrial deposition on October 14th, 2022, Natalia testifies about her age, saying, I'm 33 legally, biologically 19. However, during Michael's trial, which began October 24th, 2022 in Lafayette, a judge ruled that neither Natalia's biological nor legal ages would be mentioned during the proceedings. Michael was ultimately found not guilty on both neglect charges on October 27th, 2022, and the neglect charges against Christine were dismissed on March 23rd, 2023, which was just recently. Natalia has reportedly remained a surrogate member of the Mans family who accompanied her to court during the trials. Beth Karras says, I don't know that there's any one victim in this case. Is Natalia a convincing con artist or a neglected child? I don't know that we know the whole truth. So even Beth Karras, for as smart as she is, admits that we don't know the whole truth. So first of all, we know that she was born in the Ukraine.
I mean, but we know
in
enough.
A town called, I believe the pronunciation is Mykolaiv. And she has this very rare, not only does she have what's called dwarfism, she has this very rare form of it that also affects her joints. And it seems to have predominantly affected her legs and her ankles, even though she seems to actually get around quite well. And we know that she at one point did have a surgery. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that surgery may have taken place in New Hampshire with one of her other adoptive parents. And we're going to talk a little bit about them. But some issues that were brought up regarding Natalia and the enigma surrounding what her actual biological age is. The claim that there was pubic hair, a full amount of it, not just a smattering or a spattering that you might see in a child that's entering puberty, but a full amount that you would see on a woman is what was claimed. And this wasn't just claimed by the Barnetts. This was also claimed by medical professionals, doctors, and the staff who worked at the mental health facility, who no doubt had chance to observe her in that regard. So of that, there's little doubt or argument that she did have pubic hair. And if you Google that, just a cursory Google says, and it is common sense, this is the medically accepted range, that it can develop between ages 8 and 13. And we know that when she came to live with them in 2010, she was having a period. And that's also buttressed by medical staff and the doctor. So I don't think there's any real doubt about that as well. What we don't know is when that started. So we don't know if that had happened to just be starting that year or if she had already been previously having menstruation. And just a cursory Google shows you that, and it is a medically accepted range, that menstruation can begin in girls starting around age 10 or 12. And that's the medically accepted range. But there's always a little wiggle room on that, according to a lot of the articles that I read. It can start in some girls as early as 8. Some girls don't start until later, maybe 14. So there's this 2-year window kind of on either end. And I think just looking at her, I think you have to really believe that when she was in the Ukraine, whether she was there 3 years, 2 years, 10 years, whatever, there's no doubt that she probably faced malnutrition and mistreatment in the Ukrainian orphanage. And that likely contributed to her stature as well. She may have been taught.
Do you know what orphanage it was? How the fuck do you know that?
Had she had the proper nutrition and the proper care right away from birth. So I'm inclined to believe that she possibly stopped growing, and she was the very short. I think she's only 3 feet tall. She's in that incredibly short stature due to that malnutrition. I think that just only makes sense.
No.
And what we also learn is that
that's not how growth
Ukrainian
works.
orphanage, and again, it's cliche how bad they are over there. They're bad. However bad you think they are, however
What?
you imagine in your mind how bad it must be for those children.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Times that by 1,000. I mean, it's wretched. It's horrible, and it's been that way for a very long time. And quite frankly, I've always thought that spoke very poorly of the nation of Ukraine, among other things. Not only are they a nation riddled with human trafficking, prostitution, child prostitution, drug running. They're the opiate gateway from Asia to the east coast of America. They're a big part of our problem. They're a big part of our heroin problem, fentanyl problem. So, the nation is, in my opinion, it's a cesspool of poverty. It's very war-torn. And so it's hard on children born and kept by their families, let alone a child surrendered to an orphanage, let alone a child surrendered to an orphanage with multiple severe disabilities, obvious physical, visual disabilities that you can see. And so we learn that this shady orphanage that she was in essentially just gave her a new birth date. They pulled one out of thin air too. And they just gave her a birth certificate claiming that she was born in 2003. And they ship her off to America.
That's what I'm saying, like,
passing her off as a.
She even said dwarfism. Like, listen, if you skip lunch, you're not going to fucking be at risk of dwarfism, y'all. Just saying. Okay? It's not how it works. All right?
Young child. And in the documentary, they actually show a picture of her, who they claim is her in 2005, or they claim is in 2005, of her in a diaper laying on a table. It's a quizzical picture. There's a older looking man sort of leaning over her, looking down at her. And she's laying there on her back in a diaper. And I think it's possible that she may have been 8 or 10 years old at that point. I think the 17 years, the mother in the documentary says at one point in a phone call, I've been dealing with this for 17 years. And I think it's entirely possible that the 17 years that she's talking about.
Stop acting like you know the way ahead, like you know the rules. There are no rules, ma'am. We're lost. No.
Indicates possibly how long that she's been asked questions about when she had Natalia. Her mother was born in 79 by her own admission. And in the documentary, part 5, she claims that she was 24 when she had Natalia. But when she says this, she falters. You can tell that she has to sort of stop and think for a minute, and she sort of stumbles and falters over it. So is it true? I don't know. She claims that the doctors told her to give Natalia up and that she was young and this child will ruin your life and you will be able to have more children. This is a freak of nature. She's severely impaired. She probably won't live. So we're going to take her off your hands and you're free to leave. This is her story. And she says that she regrets it. And she also says that she was promised piles of gold and never got it. What the hell does that even mean? What does that even mean? Who promised piles of gold?
Dummy.
Why? So she's hiding something too. There's something else going on here. There's a piece of the puzzle that we're kind of missing.
Uh-oh.
Now, Natalia herself either doesn't remember a lot of her youth or she's feigning not remembering it. And she herself claims to be unsure of who she is and how old she truly is. After much logic and applying critical thinking, I think an argument can be made. Natalia Grace languished, neglected, and then handed off to new caregivers constantly for a number of years in the Ukrainian orphanage before she was assigned the birth year of 2003 by that Ukrainian orphanage prior to her transfer to America to be adopted out. I think she was neglected and overlooked for some time due to her unusually small size. I imagine at the age of 3 to 4, she still looked like a baby. And this would explain the photo of her laying on the table in Ukraine in a diaper taken in 2005. I'd be willing to bet it's possible she was more like 8 or so in that picture. I also would bet she was nonverbal for the first 8 years or so as a result of the extreme neglect and extreme lack of human interaction, which is, let's face it, it's well accepted that this goes on in Ukrainian orphanages and that these orphanages over there are particularly cruel neglectful, and abusive. So not only was she potentially unwanted by her birth mother due to her pronounced physical abnormalities, she was severely neglected during those first crucial years, stunting her bone growth and severely delaying her speech. But her endocrine system, which controls menstruation, stayed somewhat on track or was possibly somewhat early. And she was sent into puberty at an earlier than normal age, potentially 8, 9, or 10. I
these
suspect
fucking idiots, huh?
she was
Where do
born
you get
between 95 and 98. I think she developed early, maybe around age 8 in 2003, 2005-ish, thus causing her to have pubic hair, breasts, and a period. Possibly the orphanage in Ukraine noticed the onset of puberty and worked as quickly as they could to get her shipped out as a, quote, baby toddler fraudulently.
Oh my
Now,
God.
I think she's very smart, despite all the odds, probably above average range intelligence. And despite being nonverbal at first, she quickly picked up language skills, perhaps remarkably quickly. This created a perfect storm. You have a severely physically impaired, stunted, early onset puberty, high intelligence, rapid accumulation of language skills, and then you add in the mental and emotional turmoil from this potpourri of unusual extreme challenges that come about from neglect and abuse in those early years, which can cause sociopathy. Most of us can't even begin to understand or fathom what it must be like to have been totally ignored and alone for those early years from birth to age 3 to 5. She was likely rarely held, probably never cuddled, probably fed sparingly, and probably treated like a perpetual baby, albeit a grossly ignored one. It doesn't.
So I know we're in the middle of a monologue, guys. I apologize for that, and we're gonna get through it. We're gonna get through it together, okay? But I see what she's doing here. Remember what I said at the beginning of the stream? Well, if I'm right now, then forget what I said at the beginning of the stream. I'm not going to be agreeing with her, because I think what she's doing right now is building up to defending this dickhead and saying that she was all of the things that they're claiming she was.
Doesn't surprise me at all. She behaved
because, well, that would I give her the benefit of the fucking doubt, man. Because I've had conversations with this person where I'm like, okay, she's got more common sense than this. It is plain as day what happened in that documentary. It was plain as day that just living with the dad must have fucking sucked. Plain as day, video footage. I mean, I don't understand how. So she wants to make this girl out to be like she's as sinister as they made her out to be. Let's just wait.
Behaved in crazy, bizarre, and unsettling ways. She quite literally has the right to her disabilities, delays, oddities, and she absolutely was not handled well by our complete embarrassment of an adoption system. She was likely handed off several times by several American families who just didn't want to deal with her unique complexities.
But watch, this is where the but comes in.
And along come the Barnetts, who were tricked into biting off more than they could chew. Even the lead detective in Lafayette, Indiana, who would ultimately be responsible.
These will be excuses right here.
For charges coming against them, said they bought a big enough boat. And what he means by that is they took on way more than they could handle. They were clearly ill-equipped to handle Natalia and manage what I can only assume are her very puzzling needs and considerations, both physically and mentally /
Okay, they weren't ill-equipped. Not physically ill-equipped. They could have absolutely afforded to give her the proper care that she needed. They chose to be more self-centered. And they allowed the turmoil between the two of them to be something where they could take it out on the kid. She was the one that was being deceitful in their mind. And so they thought the worst, and they're going to take the aggression that they have for each other and focus it on this person who they see as some sort of alien infiltrating their domain. That's what was going on. So were they ill-equipped with common sense? Yes. Were they ill-equipped with empathy? Yes. But they had the means to give her the proper care that she needed.
emotionally. All that being said, she's likely very brilliant and has a lot to offer. I hope she's going to college because I believe she would excel and could become very instrumental in helping the world understand the extreme damage done to her and other children who are languishing away in foreign orphanages. My guess, and this is just a guess, is she's 25 to 28 years old and therefore was 15 to 18 when she was put out by the Barnetts. Now, the Barnett's oldest son, Jacob, remember the one who is on the spectrum and who is very intelligent?
Bro.
And he's very troubled now by all of this. We learned that he left Canada, ultimately ended up left Canada and his mother and his brothers and went and now lives with his dad. And the basement dwelling, they depict him on the documentary as living in this dingy basement. But I want to remind people that the basement dwelling might be by choice. And his parents just might not know how to help him. And I do believe that he's in his own way right now and not living to his full potential either. You know, I'm sure that Michael and Christine are riddled with guilt, and that guilt manifests itself in a variety of ways. Some people turtle and some people withdraw. Some people lash out. It just depends on the person. And in my opinion, the Barnetts are not monsters. They're not deserving of public scorn, and neither is Jacob, and neither.
They're totally deserving of public scorn. Now, are they monsters? No, I wouldn't use that word. I think they're a couple of fucking idiots. But yet they're shitbags because they're smart enough to know better than what they were doing. Because they had all the smarts in the world on how to attack each other. But I'm most confused with the adoption agency cold call that started this 24 hours to decide thing. They should have seen red flags. Right. Yeah. I mean, they're the bottom line here is they're the adults. And this is just like canceled Karen to be like, oh, but she was old enough to make decisions. And thank you, Calamity Jade. I appreciate it. She was old enough to make decisions. She is very smart. She's very smart. And these people were duped. And she's found a way to make them out to be victims in the situation, which they are. But they handled it wrong. Because they just focused on the fact that they were victims in the situation. They weren't concerned about what do we do with this person. We got her through an adoption agency. So we have to figure out the right way to go about this. I mean, yeah, Christine sucks. Yeah, that's valid if you think she's a monster. Fair enough.
Or will the other boys as they continue to grow up either? I think Michael Barnett, like a lot of men, is being a weasel and a man baby in that he refuses to own his role in it all. He wants to seemingly put all of the blame on Christine. And it's easy for him to do this because people are so inherently misogynistic.
See, that I agree with. But what is the misogynistic thing here? This is not, no. I mean, my chat already, before she even said anything, there's people in my chat already saying, no, this woman's a fucking monster. So why do you think no? Like, the guy is a total crybaby.
We've gone over this on my channel. People, whether they want to accept it or not, there is an inherent level of misogyny in both men and women. And it was never more clear than during the Amber Heard versus Johnny Depp trial. And this inherent misogyny will lead people to want to villainize Christine. There needs to be some villain in the story, and she's the easiest target. And it's unfair to her, in my opinion. This is quite literally not her fault. But I do think that she was terribly ill-equipped to handle neglect-induced sociopathy, and she herself reacted very badly to it.
Wait.
And once Christine got Natalia re-aged and moved out, acted very bad to handle neglect-induced sociopathy, and she herself reacted very badly to it. And once Christine got Natalia re-aged and moved out, it doesn't surprise me at all that she turtled and rarely went to see her. Christine's brain was probably so traumatized, she needs years to recover if she's even capable of.
Wow. So Christine was traumatized. And that's her excuse for She turtle shelled. And that's her excuse for yeah, and by the way, she's absolutely an Amber Heard supporter. So that should tell you plenty. So Christine was traumatized and turtle shelled. From actually, no, she's not feminist at all. Like, she's super misogynistic. Yeah, she flip-flops everywhere. She has no convictions or principles at all. This is why I review her, because it's always fun. But so now this is the excuse for abandoning a minor in an apartment, ill-equipped for her needs. Yeah.
Of recovering at all. I think she went into this with her heart 100% in the right place, and it ended up being an unmitigated nightmare. I feel every bit as bad for Christine and her sons as I do for Natalia. That being said, I do think that Christine definitely physically abused Natalia out of anger.
You see how she throws her sons in there? I feel bad for Christine and her sons. Like, that's the shield she uses from backlash for what she says, for defending this. So, like, it's funny because this way she gets to lump the kids up with her. It has nothing to do with that. Her kids had nothing to do with how she made decisions as the adult, as the parent. Kids have nothing to do with that.
Frustration, lack of the necessary skills, lack of the personality, the necessary personality to deal with a severely disabled and mentally and emotionally disturbed person / child. But I think the context matters. And I don't think Christine is inherently an abusive person, but I'm concerned about Christine's use of sex and what appears to be extreme sexual promiscuity. I mean, we learn in the documentary that she ended up having an affair with a little person that she met while looking allegedly for people to connect with, to learn more about.
Is it fucked up that I was laughing at that text exchange between that dude and just listening to that dude talk about smashing ass? Is it fucked up that I was cracking up watching that dude? Like, he called himself a bit of a country music star, and that, you know, he was just smashing ass like crazy. And he was talking about his, you know, his junk size. And I was just sitting there going, oh man, like, you know, you're on like a documentary, right? You know, this is like forever. You don't get to take that back. That little display of, I mean, dude, he doesn't get a pass. Like, nobody should be talking like that. You know what I mean? Like, if you saw anybody talk like that, you'd be like, what a fucking douchebag. You know what I mean? But when he was doing it, it was funny. I'm sorry. It was funny. Whatever the fuck you think of me, because I thought that shit was fucking funny. Whatever. I guess I deserve it, because I'm not lying. I thought that shit was fucking hilarious.
What it's like to be a little person so that she could help Natalia. And we also further learn that she potentially tried to set him up with Natalia later on. And this little person appears in the documentary, and he's just another character in a long line of characters. When I tell you, I don't even know. There's a whole lot of parts of the story that my brain keeps screaming deep fake. Like, but you know, I don't want to be that guy that says that something is a production and not real. But there's this whole cast of characters in the story, and my brain goes back and forth to, well, this is kind of, you know, these are the salt of the earth. I love Indiana. It's just south of Michigan. Indiana people are a lot like Michigan people. You know, they're our neighbors, and like Michigan people, Indiana people are salt of the earth. You know, the Midwesterners. A lot of them are, you know, loaded with personality, and this story seems to have it in spades. I don't know if you could script and cast this better than it is on its own. I mean, the cast of characters in this each one is more amusing and entertaining than the next. And it's the strange dichotomy that goes on in your brain as you're watching the documentary, because it's pretty heavy material and in some spots pretty scary and depressing and sad, but then it has these other moments that are just almost comical. And he's comical, this little person that Christine ended up allegedly hooking up with or having some sort of.
I hate that it was that I agreed with Kay on. I should have saw that coming. I'm just gonna have to deal. I'm sorry, that shit was fucking funny as fuck.
Sexcapade, cyber sex affair with. I mean, he's a complete character. And you meet some of the other families that, because it's important to understand, Natalia was in the hands of another couple prior to the Barnetts. This couple that we know of. We don't know if there were others prior to this couple, because this couple ain't talking. So we don't know if she was handed off to them at some point. But there's this couple in New Hampshire with the last name of Ciccone, which is Madonna's last name. Who knows if there's any relation? But this couple, you are led to believe via the documentary that they did whatever it took to unload her in around 2009, 2010. I believe at least 2009, they were approaching people and trying to get people to adopt her. And so you get to meet a lot of these other people that were approached about adopting her, and each one is just more entertaining than the next. And they're absolutely fascinating people, and a lot of them are little people. It seems as though the Ciccones, and we really know next to nothing about them, it seems as though they were at least trying to find a little family to adopt her. But nevertheless, they were trying to rehome her.
See how she likes.
They were trying to unload her.
See how she likes to plant those little seeds, man. Like, we know very little about them. No, what are you talking about? We know a shit ton about them. We watched 6 episodes of a documentary about them. Like, get real. Of course, we know tons about them.
Her. And it appears as though they were desperate to do it, because one of the couples that almost adopted her but didn't, because they said they got shady, creepy vibes. They felt that the situation was evil, so they didn't end up adopting her. They claim that when they went to sit down meet with Natalia and Diane Ciccone, Natalia's adopted mother, that Natalia seemed to be looking to Diane for affirmation in any answer that she gave. And so this insinuates that Diane was controlling, trying to desperately control the situation and trying desperately to get out of the situation that she was in and offload this person, this little person. So you get to see these people in the documentary, and each one is just more entertaining than the next. And as I said, I'm watching it and I'm going, can this be real? You come to points in this documentary where
I just want it for the record that the only people that I found entertaining in this documentary was that guy, if you want to, call that entertaining. The dad, he's dramatic. So, even though it annoyed me, I was entertained. And the little guy with the sexting. Just so funny.
where you're like, is this real life? Is this real, or is this deep? Couldn't this be deep fake? I doubt it's deep fake, but
why would it be deep
it
fake?
Certainly is perplexing. And
why would it be deep fake? You think that the producers of this documentary just made that little guy up to make you laugh? No. Like, what are you talking about? Deep fake? Why would there be any deep fake in that documentary? To make what point?
And there certainly are a lot of red flags in it. Now back to Natalia's mom in Ukraine, Anna Gava. She probably assumed, and indeed she says in part 5 of the documentary, that the doctors told her that Natalia wouldn't last long, that she wouldn't live very long. And essentially, well, we're sparing you this by you not taking her home and us taking her and putting her in the system. And when she says that 17 years, well, I've been dealing with this for 17 years. In my opinion, she's referring to the time span of when Natalia became a problem even for the orphanage, because she didn't die. She survived. And the orphanage probably struggled with what to do with her and ultimately cooked up the plan to alter her birth certificate and try to pass her off as a baby or a toddler. Now, the Barnetts also made a mistake interfering when other people stepped in, like Cynthia Mann, So we learn in the documentary that Christine does whatever she can to herself, just like her predecessor, Diane Ciccone. She is desperate to offload Natalia in any way she possibly can. And she manages to get the court to agree that Natalia is an adult. Now, that couldn't have been an easy feat. I know a lot of people are going to have their eyebrows raised at that the court did that, and Beth Karras has big issues with that. But the fact of the matter is that couldn't have been an easy thing for them to do. I have to believe that the courts did their due diligence, and they had the expert testimony. They had doctors testify, and they had these mental health care workers testify. And it seems as though that was definitely Christine's agenda, to get her declared an adult so she could offload her, so that she could ultimately put her in an apartment. And she goes into this first apartment and it doesn't work out, and then she goes into a second apartment and ultimately ends up meeting the Cynthia man. And in my opinion, this was another huge mistake on the Barnett's part in interfering with it. I mean, why not just let the mans take her on if they want her? Why try to maintain control? It's, you know, again, with that push-pull. Remember, we kind of learned about that with Letitia Stout, that sometimes people with abandonment issues, they do this sort of pushing and pulling with people. And that's kind of reminiscent of that. So you're pushing Natalia away. You're offloading her. You don't want her. You've had her declared an adult. You've put her in an apartment. You've had to rehome her from that apartment to another apartment because she was driving everyone crazy around her in the first apartment. And then finally someone takes an interest in her and wants to take care of her. And there's Christine to try to gum up the works and give this woman, Cynthia Mann, a hard time. I just don't understand that. Let her take her on. If all's well that ends well, then no harm, no foul. So why are you trying to interfere with that? Again, with this level of control that Christine constantly tries to exert. I do agree. She's very controlling. Now, we also meet in the documentary Detective Bob Cooper, who is the one who kind of gets the ball rolling in Lafayette, along with a Detective Davenport. And I found Bob Cooper to be well-meaning, but I think he wears that cape a little too zealously. He's coming along late in the game. He doesn't seem to be taking any of the former neighbors or mental health care worker statements into consideration at all. And there is plenty of objective firsthand witnesses with no reason to lie who have stated publicly that Natalia is manipulative, she's scary, she's unnerving, she's coy, she's crafty, she's strong, she's got strong upper body strength, she's very capable, and that she's adapted very well to her circumstances and the cards that life has dealt her. That's another sign of her high intelligence. And neighbor Sue McMillan from the first apartment complex that she was living in describes Natalia as a Hitchcock movie. I mean, you have to admit it's pretty funny, but you can't discount those claims and statements by all those people. So I have another article I'm going to read to you, and this one's from the Daily Mail. I know, the Daily Mail, but I read it and I made...
Bro, the thing is about that is that doesn't mean that she wasn't a minor. Like, because if you could sit here and sit, like in the same very stream at the beginning of it, she got all pissed off at somebody in her chat because they were like, well, a child isn't going to be capable of these things and blah, blah, blah. And then she's like, of course a child is capable of hitting an adult. Of course there's a child capable of killing an adult. Of course a child it can have sociopathy and kill an adult. Don't be ignorant, blah, blah, blah. I mean, but a teenager can't be cunning, coy, or not coy, but cunning, and they can't be calculating, and they can't be manipulative. I don't think I've ever met a teenager who wasn't manipulative. Dude, as a teenager, you learn how to be manipulative and you have fun with it. And then you either grow out of it or you just become an asshole. But you learn to be manipulative. That's how you fucking end up getting freedom from your parents. That's how you end up getting them to do things. You manipulate situations. That's just, I mean, here she is in this position to have to survive. See, she's sitting here going, oh my God, she was fine and she was manipulative. You can't discount everything that these people were saying because look, she must have been really manipulative. But does that mean that child should have been left alone by themselves? I mean, you're saying that because she's capable of being manipulative and that she's capable of doing the best that she can in the situation that she's in. Because what you're also discounting is that she would go into people's houses and eat their food because she wasn't getting enough food. So, of course, she would try to manipulate situations where she could get something from someone. That's called survival. That doesn't make her a malicious, manipulative mastermind. That makes her an able person who can survive. That's it. I mean, that doesn't make her some... What the fuck are you talking about?
I made sure they had it pretty close. They got it close to how it's described in the documentary. So if you haven't seen the documentary yet, this is for those of you. For those of you that have seen the documentary, you probably know all this information. The title is Ukrainian Dwarf. Natalia Grace's neighbors claim she admitted trying to murder her adoptive family in chilling conversations that made them think she was like a serial killer. Natalia Barnett allegedly attempted to poison and threaten to stab her former adoptive family more than a decade ago. After she was moved into an apartment when her legal age was increased by 14 years, former neighbors revealed the chilling conversations they had with her. Barnett is the subject of new docuseries, The Curious Case of Natalia Grace, which details allegations that she pretended to be a child to be adopted. Former neighbors of a Ukrainian dwarf accused of pretending to be a child have revealed the spine-chilling conversations that led them to believe she was, quote, like a serial killer. Natalia Barnett was put into a Lafayette, Indiana apartment by her adoptive parents, Michael and Christina Barnett, in 2011 after they came to suspect she was far older than she claimed. The Barnetts adopted Natalia in 2010 and were both recently acquitted of neglect charges after abandoning her to live alone in the apartment while they moved to Canada. The couple, who split in 2014, claimed she is an imposter who was actually an adult and conned their way into their family, threatened to stab them in their sleep, and poisoned their coffee. Neighbors who lived next door to Natalia's Lafayette apartment recounted in the new docuseries, The Curious Case of Natalia Grace, which premiered on Monday night, how she was unmoved by her disturbing behavior. Quote, she was like a serial killer or something. How casually she put attempted murder into conversation, said Toby Miles, a former neighbor. Quote, she said, I stood over them with a knife, so they took all the knives away, recalled Toby Miles' wife, Melanie Miles. Quote, and then I tried to poison them, so I had to live in the garage for a while. Sue McCallum, another Lafayette resident, said Natalia had a so what attitude when discussing her alleged attempts on her adopted family's lives. Quote, oh, gee, I pulled a knife on my parents. Big deal, she said. That's the attitude you got from her. The former neighbors all shared similar accounts of Natalia's bizarre perspective on her alleged disturbing behavior, which left them scratching their heads over how to process the unsettling revelations. Quote, what do we do with this information? We're not social workers. We're not therapists, said Toby. Natalia was moved into the Lafayette apartment after the Barnetts moved to Canada and after a judge illegally changed her to 22. However, questions still remain. And that's not, I don't know if that's true, because she was moved, I think it was Westfield first, into the first entry level apartment. And then she got kicked out of there. They did not renew her lease because she was so problematic in the apartment complex. They basically booted her. And she ended up then going to Lafayette to a second story apartment. So... Okay, article continues. It was hard for us to understand how she was just left in that apartment by herself, said Melanie Miles. If I thought she was just a child who didn't know how to take care of herself, this would be a different conversation, added her husband, who feared cutting ties with Natalia could endanger himself due to her apparently unhinged temperament. Quote, it's like a bad breakup, he said. Like, if I break up with you, are you going to go crazy? The saga of Barnett's adoption captured headlines in recent years amid the arrests of her former adoptive parents, Michael and Christine Barnett. The couple were taken into custody in 2019 on child neglect charges. Michael was acquitted of the charges in October of 2022, while Christine had her case dismissed in March, just a few weeks before her trial. It came after they adopted Natalia in April 2010, believing they were taking home a 6-year-old child. But their dream adoption quickly turned into a nightmare when they realized she may not be who she had claimed, and they suspected she was a menacing adult masquerading as a child. Quote, she tried to poison and kill my wife, Michael claimed. And one night...
See, she's leaving out a very important detail of the documentary that one of the jurors even said, like, we didn't know enough about the case. The stuff that we know now, if we had the access to a lot more information, we probably would have decided differently. There was probably would have been, yeah. I mean, so it was a juror that said that shit.
I opened my eyes and Natalia is standing at the foot of the bed with a knife in her hand. Christina, who is accused of abusing Natalia in the Bombshell documentary, told DailyMail.com in 2019 that her family were terrorized by the Ukrainian in the months after they adopted her. She alleged that Natalia threatened to stab the family in their sleep, pushed her towards an electric fence, and poured bleach in her coffee. Quote, she would make statements and draw pictures saying she wanted to kill family members, roll them up in a blanket, and put them in the backyard, she told Daily Mail. Quote, she was standing over people in the middle of the night. You couldn't go to sleep. We had to hide all the sharp objects. I saw her putting chemicals, bleach, and Windex, something like that, in my coffee. And I asked her, what are you doing? And she said, quote, I'm trying to poison you. Christine continues, the media is painting me to be a child abuser, but there is no child here, said Barnett.
Oh my God.
Michael revealed in the documentary that the couple suspected she was not a child after a trip to Disney World, where Christine discovered she had, quote, full pubic hair while giving her a bath. In the months after that, the couple alleged there was, quote, a lot of escalation. This included discovering she'd been hiding her period from them for months. On one occasion, when Natalia met another 6-year-old with a rare bone disorder named...
Appreciate it, Grandmaster. Thanks, man.
Called spondyloepiphyseal dysplasia, the stark difference in age became seemingly indisputable. Natalia, who did not speak with Ukrainian accent, towered over her playmate, while her bone structure and vocabulary were far more advanced. As the months wore on, Michael claimed it became apparent they were living with a menace, to the point she, quote, threatened to stab her new siblings. In never before seen footage, the documentary shows Natalia's suspect behavior inside her adoptive home, including sitting at a table reading the Bible. And when asked why she chose to read it, she responds, to get rid of these evil thoughts. Michael said, quote, she would do as much as possible to cause hurt or harm or mental distress to the entire family. After taking the child to a psychiatrist for several months, Michael said he was stunned by the diagnosis. Instead of the expected result of schizophrenia or that Natalia was hearing voices, the expert told them something worse. She was a, quote, sociopath. The numerous red flags led the family to seek an attorney. And in 2012, a petition launched by the family at probate court was granted, and a judge legally changed her birth date from 2003 to 1989 on her Ukrainian birth document. After the couple was... Now, Detective Davenport also came at this like a hammer, and her sons. It was probably to spare Natalia her own inadequacy and inability to deal with her. That being said, I don't think Christine should be keeping... I actually was going to play it at a later point, but I'm going to play it now. This is how ridiculous he is.
I mean, I agree with that.
I was abused by that woman. I was abused by that woman. Jacob was abused by that woman. My two sons are abused by that woman right now today. That woman is a controlling, lying, manipulating woman. We were all abused.
Like,
Christine's a monster.
at least she's right about this guy.
She yelled at me because she was standing on a chair to change a light bulb, and I wanted her to get off the chair because she was pregnant and due the next day. And she's up on yelling because Michael had changed the light bulb. And I said, Christine, you need to come down. She told everybody I hit her. And then she told me I had to leave their house, that I wasn't welcome there anymore. But the really hard part is what this has done to my son.
Mm-hmm.
See, we might agree on this too, because I'm of the opinion, I've seen this quite a bit, where you get an adult who's way too coddled by his mom, and then you get a guy like that. A woman who's going to make excuses for their kid all the time. I mean, it's not always with boys or men. Like, that's the vibe I get from Battery Betty. Her mom just enables her. And this is why she's always has excuses for her behavior and always justifies it.
Screaming. Then you got Beth Karras in her Kermit voice. I always thought she sounded like Kermit the Frog, saying, quote, parents are supposed to protect their kids. But like, come on, let's get real, Beth Karras. There is context here, context in all caps. It does matter how the Barnetts ended up living this story. I've talked about the why, but the how matters too. And at one point in the documentary, you hear one of the producers saying to Jacob, you can exonerate a little girl. You can set the record straight. And this indicates the single-mindedness, in my opinion, of the producer to single out Christine and try to lay the blame for all of this on Christine's shoulders.
I mean,
I just think that that's terribly unfair. There was blame long before Christine ever came along. Let's get real. Natalia was abandoned by many people long before Christine, starting with her own mom.
So that makes it okay.
Christine ironically shouldered the lion's share of getting Natalia out there into the world so she could find the right fit for her, which is somewhat of a gift.
Trace the signal.
There is always a need to place blame somewhere, and I get that. But laying blame at this point and villainizing Christine won't undo all the unfairness that's been done to Natalia from the moment she was born.
But
the producer goes on to quote Martin Luther King Jr. and says,
what it does is it holds her accountable for what she did. It holds her accountable for what she did. She deserves all the public scrutiny that she's getting. Now, she doesn't deserve to be harassed or anything like that, but she definitely deserves to be criticized publicly, to say the least.
As justice delayed is justice denied. Well, I'm sorry. I just somehow doubt Martin Luther King would apply that philosophy to this case with all its complexities, nuances, and context. Unless you're going to punish all of the villains in the story, and there are many, singling out one and feeding her to the wolves online was cruel, of these producers. Fuck them. I say let's focus on healing and peace for all of these people, not, quote, justice and societies and quenching society's insatiable thirst for someone to lay hate and blame on all the time. The producer presses Christine's son, Jacob, and he very clearly says to her, I don't want to talk about this anymore. And then they inadvertently catch him on mic saying something about kicking down the stairs. So they're interviewing him in his basement room. He says, I don't want to talk about it anymore. And he gets up and he walks away. He sort of shuffles away. I mean, this kid is riddled with anxiety. You can tell that he's riddled with depression and anxiety. And these scumbag producers capitalized on it for their own gain to sell Christine as the monster. The fact is, there really are no monsters. And there are no, quote, freak shows in this case either. There are just loads of flawed human beings who seem to either show their best or worst sides or both when forced to deal with this rare human being, Natalia Grace. And that lady with all the cats and the kids and the tattoos who has endless compassion for Natalia, but none for the Barnetts, doesn't seem to understand how they were played with as well. They were also victimized, and their empathy and their compassion was used against them. So yeah, you lady with all the cats, tattoos, and kids, you just keep collecting living creatures and humans because you're so filled with empathy and compassion. You might want to learn a little lesson from this story. Sometimes that abundancy of empathy and compassion can be turned around and used as a weapon against you. As for Natalia, in a forensic interview, she claims they never abused her.
You suck.
And even Beth Harris has to admit that Natalia has made a lot of conflicting statements. In fact, Natalia blames Jacob for abuse, saying he, quote, would drop her. Then, after saying, no, they never hit me, she then goes on to say, well, wait a minute. Yeah, they did. They all did. They took turns. First, Christine would whip me, then Michael would whip me, then the boys would whip me. In my opinion, she's lying.
You're a little
She's also caught in another lie when she says she didn't know that she could call police and say that she was being neglected and abandoned by being left in the apartment by the Barnetts. But we know that she called police on her own self at one point while living in that apartment to report to police that she was fighting a compulsion to kill someone. She lies compulsively, in my opinion.
Bro, she's a fucking kid. She's a fucking kid. What are you talking about?
And she doesn't seem to be able to keep any of them straight. Meanwhile, Michael in season 5 is almost unrecognizable from the previous season, as you saw in the video that I played. He's erratic. He's hyper emotional. He's damn near histrionic. Like, dude, calm down. Stop being a man baby and just own your shit. Agreed. He then goes on to say that Christine sexually abused him by using it as a tool. It was considered abuse to him in his mind that his wife would withhold sex from him. He says she never came on to me. She never told me I was attractive. This is abuse in his mind. He then admits to a porn addiction. He says that she would send him dirty pics to entice him to come back to her. He said she used sex to get custody of the boys and then calls her the walking epitome of evil. Like, dude, she's not evil. You're just a weak dick. He even admits he wasn't mentally and emotionally capable of handling the entire situation. Well, neither was your wife. You can try to make her seem horrible now, but you're leaving out the context of all the other people, independent of your wife, who said Natalia was manipulative, devious, inappropriate.
She's definitely, Christine is definitely in my book a C-U-N-T Watt. 100%.
And can put on an act when she needed to. And then we see him at one point saying to the producers, well, if you want the crying version of me, I can bust that one out. So who is the real manipulative one? However, I agree. Christine alienating his sons from him is wrong. It's very common. We know it. I've gone over and over on my show about it. It's being done every day by millions of people, but it's wrong, 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 wrong. And Christine, if you happen to hear my show, you are hurting your sons, period. You're not just hurting Michael. You're hurting your sons. And you're making a terrible situation far worse. And last but not least, old Beth Harris clearly has sour grapes over Michael being acquitted. And they interviewed the foreperson who indicated that they felt that they just had to go with not guilty against their better judgment because they were hamstrung by the judge. They didn't want to find him not guilty. And Beth Harris essentially says he got very lucky. He dodged a bullet. He got very lucky. And allegedly, there's going to be another episode where Natalia speaks out. So I guess we'll see when that one airs. But this is just my sort of write-up on the whole sordid thing. I would encourage anyone, if you can, I believe it's ID channel. I watched it on HBO Plus, or what's called Max now. But it's my understanding that it aired initially on ID channel. So if you have Amazon Prime, I think you can go and like do a trial or rent the ID channel and possibly watch it on there. But don't hold me to that because I didn't look for it in that route. Okay, that's it. That's what I got. I'm really tired. You probably can hear it in my voice. I'm really tired. I caffeinated out yesterday and got a whole lot of shit done. So I'm a little caffeine hungover today.
Bro. So there you go. So, to summarize what we basically just watched was the message. The overall message is if your teenager turns out to be too much of a problem for you, then it's justified and understandable if you abandon them. If you make them out to be murderers and abandon them. It's but she was this, but she was that, but she was this, but she was that. It's not fair to scrutinize these people publicly. No. Bottom line is they didn't even consider that this girl was still underage. And she was clearly struggling with a disability. And they're accountable because they did not take this into consideration and they just went on the attack of her because they didn't bother to get to the truth of understanding her. But I mean, you could just call CPS or HRS and you can tell them, I'm not fit to take care of this person. This person has disabilities. This person has, you could absolutely do that. That I'm not a fit person to take care of them. I mean, so they put her in they absolutely treated her as though they suspected that she was an adult. But they didn't consider the possibility that she was a teenager and having to deal with constantly being abandoned, as Kay put it, because absolutely, she's definitely a victim of abandonment. And so what? The solution is to abandon her again? That's the solution? According to Kay, well, it's somehow justified. These people don't deserve to be criticized because this person had so much deceit in them. And there were so many eyewitnesses that said that she was manipulative. But, as long as that's the case, guys, according to Kay, you're not a bad person if you just fucking stick them in an apartment, and you don't feed them. You don't leave them with a phone, nothing. Okay. But guys, yeah, I am going to wrap this up. I appreciate you guys sticking with me. I realize this is the usual time that I usually take. But it has been a minute and yeah, we got more stuff to talk about soon. So I'll try to go live again tomorrow and get back to our normal routine here, hanging out with each other because I really dig hanging out with you guys. Emily Biz, keep calling out the BS and doing what you're doing. Thank you so much. Remember for too much. Welcome to Logic. And if I missed any memberships where there were comments, they don't show up in my StreamYard chat when I'm looking at the StreamYard. They show up on my YouTube, and the YouTube chat has been acting really weird lately. And so it's not going the way that it normally would. So if I missed any, I really apologize, guys. But I really appreciate you guys, and I had a great time as always. And yeah, we're definitely going to. I'd like to go live tomorrow. I don't know. I mean, hopefully tomorrow, everything as far as this tomorrow being the anniversary of when Summer Wells went missing. Hopefully there's not too much, bullshit in the community. So I'm really hoping. It all goes well and everybody acts respectful towards each other, and I won't have anything to talk about as far as that goes. I'm really hoping for that. But anyways, guys, I love you very much, and we will do this again very soon, my friends.